So recently, after one of my many Wikipedia rabbit hole deep dives, I came across a term I'd never heard of before, called Turksploitation Films. To put it simply, these were Turkish rip-off movies made without any care for copyright law. I have actually seen some of these movies, and I know a lot of them are cult classics that people love to laugh at, such as Dünyayı Kurtaran Adam, which is Turkish Star Wars. It became quite famous for not just ripping off Star Wars, but also several other Hollywood franchises. Even straight up stealing music or some CGI scenes. There's also Turkish Wizard of Oz, Turkish Star Trek, Turkish Rambo, and so much more. The one that caught my attention in particular, though, was a little movie called Üç Dev Adam, our very own superhero movie featuring Captain America and Spider-Man. I'm sure you've seen an image or two at least of Turkish Spider-Man at some point, and I like superheroes, I'm sure you guys do as well, so I decided to pick this one because I think I can give a lot more insight on some of the more culturally relevant jokes that many other foreigners might have missed. I'll also try to give some insight on some of the more behind-the-scenes stuff and the more absurd choices that this movie makes. But I'll do that at the end of the video. First, let's actually watch the movie. It's available for free right here on YouTube, actually. After what might be the longest opening credits in cinematic history... Wait, the fuck is a film amili? Rejissör ne lan? We finally meet our three heroes. This guy, I think his name was Orhan. He's a cop that sort of just drives people around. I thought he was going to be some sort of Jim Gordon type cop, but no, he just stands around all movie doing nothing. There's also Captain America, and dang, Chris Evans looks different in the 70s. Yeah, so obviously they didn't get an American to play Cap. This guy's Turkish, his name is Aytekin Akkaya, and apparently he is meant to be American. The literal first line of the movie is the cop guy saying,
Türkçeyi gayet iyi konuşuyorsunuz.
There's also a girl named Julia who is apparently Cap's girlfriend. Fuck Peggy, I guess. There's also this guy. Who is this guy? Captain Underpants? Yeah, I know, this character is actually based on a real-life Mexican luchador named Santo. Santo was apparently world famous around this time and made several movies, most of which came to Turkey, and made him just as famous here as anywhere else. He was basically Bruce Lee before Bruce Lee. After doing some research, I also found out that he was famous for almost never taking off his mask, which clearly didn't matter to the people who made this movie as he barely fucking wears it. And if you're wondering where Spider-Man is, he isn't here. No, they're not gonna go over to Queens and pick him up or anything. Spider-Man is the villain of this movie. Yeah, you know, Peter Parker, science nerd high schooler turned superhero with money problems and girl troubles? Nah, screw that guy. This Spidey's a psychopathic murderer who kills a woman with a boat propeller in the first 15 minutes of the movie. Oh, and also, they don't call him Spider-Man in this universe, he's just Spider. Good to know at least one of them doesn't have to worry about hyphens, I guess. In this opening scene, we find out through riveting dialogue that the Spider Gang has been stealing antiques from rich people, selling them on the black market, and then buying them back with counterfeit money? Look, I don't know how organized crime works, but what the hell does that accomplish? Also, apparently Spider-Man's not Turkish either. Cap mentions that he and his gang originated in Asia. Point is, his illegal actions have drawn the attention of not just the international law organizations, but also the Turkish mafia. Oh god, run! After Spider makes light work of the mafia,
Adios, mafia.
it's now up to Captain America, Santo, and random cop guy to save the day. After a very boring half hour of waiting around, Cap finally dons his suit to go save his girlfriend, who got kidnapped by the way. I at least appreciate that Cap has his suit, and that it's comic accurate. He doesn't have his shield though, he kinda just decks people in the face in this universe. After saving his girl, he sees Spidey running off in the distance and begins to chase after him. And wait, oh my god, is that a graveyard? I just know this isn't a set. They're jumping over actual graves. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, I feel you, man. Spider-Man uses his usual mode of transport to run away. He gets into a car and drives off. Yeah, he doesn't have any of his usual powers. A car is no match for Captain America as he starts doing this shit. Clearly though, Spidey blocks the impact of those punches with his glorious spider brows, and he manages to get him off the car. Later on, we have Santo breaking into a martial arts dojo, which I have never seen before. We have these in Turkey, must be a 70s thing. And meets up all the guys there because he was trying to steal... Okay, let me see if I got this. A bunch of papers with addresses written on them where Spider keeps all of his stolen goods kept in this guy's safe. Did he pull a key out of his dick? Why does he keep shoving stuff down there? Meanwhile, Spider drives off to some random house with his favorite girl from his harem and goes inside. Also, he skips the stairs for some reason. That was like the most Spider-Man thing he's done in this whole movie, honestly. Now, I'll be honest. I don't know who this woman is. I don't think you're supposed to know. But basically, what happens is Spider kills her by strangling her in the shower. We'll see another shower kill later in the movie, and it seems to be his favorite spot to kill for some reason. And he skipped the stairs again! Skipping ahead a little, eventually Spider finds out that Santo took the addresses and gets really mad at the guy that had them in the safe. After this freaky-ass laugh, he decides to kill this guy by... Okay. Sit down, we have to talk about this. I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of torture. So I'm not up to date on recent torture methods. But I just need to know if I'm not insane for thinking that a normal person couldn't come up with this stuff. Spider puts a big tube in front of the guy's face, and then he puts 2 starving rats through the tube, which then eat the guy's face.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
Well, now that's over, do you guys want to go to a strip club? Yeah, so the third act of this movie is revolved almost entirely around the strip club, with a dancing sequence that goes on for way too long, and quickly evolves into something I'm definitely not allowed to show on YouTube. I just need to see who wrote this movie, hold on. Doğan Tamer. Oh, of course he wrote Kurtlar Vadisi, of course he fucking did. According to Doğan Tamer, Üç Dev Adam contains the 4 core things a Turkish movie needs. Action, sex, sadism, and heroism. Speaking of sex and sadism, here's that second shower kill. This is the only scene where I'm glad it ended in the death of the people involved, because before this there was a really weird and awkward sex scene just kind of inserted in there, pun intended, that had laughing sentient statues. Man, what the fuck is going on in this movie? After more pointless nonsense happens, the plot is lost on me by this point, we finally get to the third act final battle. Spider versus Captain America. And after a hard-fought battle, Captain America manages to kill Spider for good.
Good night, Americanos!
Oh. Well, guess that one was a fake then. So he kills this one and... Oh, well he kills that one too, and oh come on! Yeah, so it turns out Spider does actually have some supernatural abilities. He can clone himself. You know, as spiders do. After he and Santo kill Spider for the final time, everything is solved and suddenly, oh no, he's back! Huh? Yeah, so that was Üç Dev Adam. Certainly a movie. The movie of all time. Just like you, I had many questions that I definitely needed answered. The first one being, why? First, let's get down to the obvious one. Why was this movie made and how was it even allowed? Well, the how part is pretty simple. At the time, Turkey's copyright laws around foreign IPs were pretty lax. They were basically public domain. Turkish movie makers could steal characters, stories, OSTs, and even scenes from foreign works without any repercussions whatsoever. Basically, the director wanted to exploit the laws and be what I can only describe as ahead of his time. The idea to bring together Cap and Santo and pit them against Spider-Man came from a desire to reinvent the superhero genre of Turkish cinema after several successful ripoffs such as Yarasa Adam, Casus Kıran, and Superman Dönüyor. Why is this movie called Üç Dev Adam? What the hell does that even mean? Üç Dev Adam directly translates to 3 giant men, and this translation is used for any English releases of the movie, including any entries on sites like Letterboxd. I personally think the translation might be wrong though, as the phrase Dev Adam is not supposed to be giant man. Dev Adam is often used to refer to people who've achieved great things in life and are respected by everyone. Therefore, I think a more accurate translation would be something like 3 mighty men. Also, contrary to popular belief, the men part is not supposed to include Spider-Man, but the police character instead. And why does Captain America not have his shield? At the time, Turkish audiences weren't really familiar with superheroes, but Captain America was one of the few they knew about due to a very old 1944 Republic movie serial that was released in Turkish markets under the name Yıldırım Yüzbaşı, or Lightning Lieutenant. That serial was originally intended to be about Fawcett Comics' Mr. Scarlet, but due to some boring rights issues, that never came to be. Instead, a character from Marvel Comics, then called Timely Comics, was used for the show. But since the serial was so heavily centered around Mr. Scarlet, many of his traits, such as being a middle-aged district attorney who turns into a vigilante at night, was used for Cap instead. His suit was put together basically overnight, omitting the character's little head wings and most notably his trademark vibranium shield. Since Turkish audiences, including the people who worked on Luchador, were only familiar with this version of the man with a plan, his costume similarly lacked his head wings and he didn't use his shield. I will give credit where credit is due though. In the 40s serial, Cap actually uses a gun, whereas the Turkish one doesn't. Maybe they couldn't find a gun prop or something, but I appreciate that, as I've always hated seeing Cap be depicted with any form of weaponry besides his red, white, and blue frisbee. And finally, why does Spider-Man look like that, and why is he a criminal? Much like Captain America, Turkish audiences were not familiar with the webhead around this time, as neither Cap nor Spidey's comics were introduced to Turkish markets yet, and his first silver screen adaptation starring Nicholas Hammond, which was released in cinemas across Turkey, was still years away. His costume looked the way it did because they thought the webs were too hard to draw. If you look closely at the red parts of his suit, you can actually make out some half-drawn webs. They clearly gave up very quickly. As for the green, I don't know. They even recolor them in the poster, so I'm gonna assume they accidentally bought green fabric or something and just went with it. As for his ability to clone himself, apparently the writers wanted to have a reason to have both Cap and Santo fight him at the same time, and gave him that power. It was supposed to emulate the feeling of a virus spreading by duplicating. While we sadly didn't get to see any Turkish Spider-Man, good or evil, in Across the Spider-Verse, he did actually make a small, tiny background cameo appearance in Dan Slott's 2015 Spider-Verse run, canonizing him to the Marvel Multiverse. Hopefully he'll show up in Beyond the Spider-Verse, and even if he doesn't, at least we have this amazing rendition of him from the incredibly talented Yotakuboi, including a very Ottoman-looking redesign. So with that, adios, Mafia.